order and objections to conducting any business on July 14th. And Robert's Rules of Order says that in the absence of a quorum, any business transacted except for the procedural actions noted in the next paragraph is null and void. But if the quorum fails to appear at a regular or properly called meeting, the inability to transact business does not detract from the fact that the society's rules requiring the meeting to be held were complied with and the meeting is convened even though it had to adjourn immediately. The only action that can legally be taken in the absence of a quorum is to fix the time to which to adjourn, to recess, or to take measures to obtain a quorum. And Roberts also says the prohibition against transacting business in the absence of a quorum cannot be waived even by unanimous consent, and a notice cannot be validly given. Now, I know that the chair may want to bring up another part of Roberts' next page where it says, where an important opportunity would be lost unless acted upon immediately, the members present can, at their own risk, act in the emergency with the hope that their action will be ratified by a later meeting at which quorum is present. Now, the thing is, if the actions at the July 14th meeting are to be ratified at a later meeting where there is a quorum, then the calling of a regular meeting cannot itself be ratified before the meeting is met. Therefore, either this meeting is an adjourned meeting and must pick up the agenda where the June 26th meeting left off, or it's no meeting at all. Because otherwise you're saying somehow people ratified calling this as a regular meeting before the meeting ever happened. That's absurd.
I'm going to ask our other parliamentarian friends to move on.
Well stated.
Okay, I'm going to take out my Robert's Rules of Order and take a look. What page are you looking at?
It's 336 and 337 for the most part. Page 336, lines 24 to 35. Page 337, lines 14 to 16. And 337, 19 to 23. What?
Would you be kind enough to repeat that one after the
Okay, page 336. Page 336, lines 24 to 35.
It's nice we have space.
Actually, we didn't fix a time to which to adjourn. We just adjourned that meeting.
Well-
Therefore, this isn't a meeting. I'm looking at lines 20, 25 here. Quorum fails to appear at a regular or properly called meeting. The inability to transact business does not detract from the fact that the society's rules require the meeting. That's right. Keep fighting with it. And the meeting was convened even though it had to adjourn meeting, which we didn't do. But the only action that can legally be taken in the absence of quorum is to fix the time to which to adjourn, which we should not. Adjourn, recess, or take measures to obtain a quorum.
Well,
We adjourn.
actually, Madam Chair, we never voted to adjourn.
We adjourn.
Well, we did adjourn at some point, but that was we dissolved. We didn't actually make
No,
never
we
made a motion to
adjourn, and
adjourn.
adjourn is
But,
the one thing we can legally do.
Madam Chair, my point of order is that this is either an adjourned meeting or it's no meeting at all. Because these meetings have to be properly called. The bylaws require that the meetings be properly called. And the bylaws require them to be called properly. Now,
Okay.
we
Meeting was
can't
adjourned.
simply say, basically my point comes at the end there again, and I'll repeat it. You cannot logically say that a meeting is being called as a regular meeting when that couldn't possibly be ratified by the meeting it's being called to be. So, again, either it's an adjourned meeting or it's not a meeting.
No, it's a meeting, the meeting was called and noticed properly. And
No, Madam Chair.
the previous meeting was adjourned.
No, Madam Chair, the previous meeting had no power to call a regular meeting.
The
It could only
previous
adjourn.
meeting adjourned, therefore the only
Yes,
kind of meeting we can
adjourned
have
to
now
another
is a regular-
time.
Please let me finish. The previous meeting adjourned, therefore the only meeting we can have now is a regular meeting. It's the same thing as if in other words, you can't.
How is this meeting called?
Please let me.
Oh, let's go.
All right. Supposing it had been a regular meeting and there was not a quorum, it would have had to adjourn. The following meeting would not be an adjourned meeting, it would be a regular meeting, and even though there was not a quorum there to say we're going to call another regular meeting. In other words, you can't bring the whole workings of the organization to a screeching halt because there wasn't a quorum.
Madam-
So we adjourned.
Madam
This is a
Chair.
regular meeting.
That's part of my point of order, is that we can't conduct business in the absence of a quorum. Now, you say if a meeting were called, etc. How did that meeting come to be called?
I'm going to
It
rule your
wasn't.
point. I'm going to rule
If you-
I'm going to rule that your point is not well taken.
I appeal the ruling of the chair.
Well, the reasons I've mentioned, that meeting was adjourned. It was over at the end.
Madam Chair, a point of information.
Yes.
Can you please explain which meeting, say June or July or whatever you're talking about?
The
It's hard to
meeting,
follow.
the meeting in July, please wait to be.
Thank you.
Yeah. The meeting of July 14th was an adjourned meeting. It was a continuation of the June meeting, which was also a continuation of the May meeting. There was not a quorum. We did, at the suggestion of Steve Brown, actually, which the whole meeting took, make some provisional, pass some provisional things that were very time sensitive, pending ratification by the entire body of the following meeting. We then adjourned. That meeting was adjourned. It was not adjourned to a set date. It was simply adjourned. The end. Over and out. The end. The end of the meeting that began on May, whatever it was. Okay. This is a regularly scheduled meeting. Anyone else? Well, our Paul, you want to speak to it, and our Paul wants to speak to it.
Or a point of information. I knew.
We're setting the agenda now, so
I'm
I'm sorry, excuse me. We're at the point of attempting to set the agenda here. Our Paul has maintained that we need to.
Point of order. Nobody made a motion to do the agenda. We're not on that yet. We're on the chair convening the meeting.
Well, then we have an unlimited amount of time to spend on this instead of.
Could the chair please come to order?
The chair is.
I didn't understand July to be adjourned, a continued meeting. I knew I couldn't come to that meeting. We had scheduled it like the previous meeting before. We had scheduled it as a regular meeting, not as a continued meeting.
It was, I understood, it was a continued meeting. Our Paul.
Yeah, Roberts also says action by unanimous consent requires the presence of a quorum. So even unanimous consent at that meeting could not do something that couldn't be done without a quorum. Pacifica bylaws, Article 7, Section 7 says a quorum at any meeting with LSP shall be a majority of the then currently serving LSP members, not including the station manager. Later on in that section it says, except as otherwise expressly provided in these bylaws, the approval of a majority of the LSP members present and voting shall be required for any action of said LSP. So we are required to have a quorum, and we are required to have any action coming from the majority. Now, part of the problem here is that if the chair insists on somehow saying that this is a regular meeting that called itself without some sort of ratification, I mean, we can't call a regular meeting without a quorum. And if the chair says it is that, then everything we do at this meeting is going to be tainted by the fact that this meeting has not been properly called if it's regular, if it's treated as regular. And so anything passed here will be null and void, and that will be a continuing breach.
Okay.
We can, however, at an adjourned meeting, we can amend the agenda. The agenda doesn't have to be in stone. we can pick up where we're supposed to at, after the June 26th meeting, and we can then amend the agenda to whatever we need to put into it. Because if the chair intends to go over everything that was brought up on July 14th, you're going to have to go through that agenda basically anyway. So I would suggest that we not set things up to be challenged in the future and do this legally, because as a regular meeting, this would not be legal.
Bob, do you have something you'd like to ask?
Okay, I just checked another page of Roberts, which suggests that our policy is correct, because it talks about fixing the time to which to adjourn, what we did, review it, and it says that you set the time, sometimes the place, for another meeting to continue business of the session. So it does look like we're in the same meeting, but as our Paul also pointed out, we can go and that stuck with what we agreed to last time. And obviously, we have some deadlines staring us in the face, so I think, everyone will agree that certain things must be.
Okay, I will accept that. Okay, so let's move quickly, because we have a budget to approve, and we have a waivers committee to be
Mr.
sure that it's up and running. If you raise your hand, I will
Point of information.
acknowledge you. Yes, are you raising your hand?
What's parliamentary inquiry?
Yes.
Is the chair vacating the rule?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is this on? Is this on? Can you hear this?
Okay.
It's on yet.
All right, so we need to basically reconstitute the agenda that we don't have in front of us. However, we had,
We're getting off to a good start.
do you have it in front of you, Paul? Did you bring this with you in anticipation of your objection to this being?
I have the meeting notes for the last 2 years.
Do you have the agenda for the last 2 years?
Actually, I do, yeah. If we put them out,
Our secretary,
yeah.
our secretary has one.
Secretary has it, right?
Yes, so we are now up to, we had report by Interim General Manager Robert Scott Adams first. Then we had committee reports and announcement, management evaluation, membership outreach and fundraising, program committee, waivers committee, public comment, and so forth. Now, what we have this evening as an obligation of our board is the budget. And because this time is so short, the waivers committee, it seems to me that what we would like, what the best thing to do would be to revise this agenda. So please, side conversation here. I would suggest, especially since Robert Scott Adams needs to leave at 9, and what time is it now? What time? It's now 8?
On the 7th.
7:30.
Feels like
7:30.
Yes.
Okay, 7:30, so he has an hour and a half, and we have an hour budgeted for the finance committee. I would like to suggest that we consider the motion read the waivers process and the waivers committee, and elect the waivers committee immediately, because that is that's a very pressing piece of business. We do that first. And then proceed to the finance committee meeting, finance committee report, and then have public comment immediately following that. Is somebody writing this down? So yeah.
I was trying to, but you're going to.
Okay. All right.
Oh, I see.
I suggest that we begin with the waivers committee. Leaving the report for later, but the motion to reestablish the committee, the waivers process, and to actually have the election, which I guess we'll have to do by hand since I don't see Marcus here. He is here, I'm sorry. Hi, Marcus. Good to see you. I don't have any ballots. Okay. That we should be able to pass that motion within the next half hour, or within less than a And then go back to, we've had, I'm going to leave it at that and ask for other people to suggest yes, Bob.
Okay, I would propose that after that, we have AB, AB1 and AB2, and then we do the rest of it.
You can with those
I
out.
move
That's
the
too
order that you said.
What is that? Wait.
Okay, so.
I'm sure we can't do that all around here.
All right, is that any better?
Yeah.
Okay, so we all have to talk right into the mic. Okay, so what I'm moving is that number one, what's now 5C, then 5D.
5?
On tonight's agenda.
The agenda you have for tonight.
Tonight's draft agenda.
Could I ask the members to say what they are?
Sure.
Otherwise, we don't.
Okay, all right, so.
What is 5C?
Please, let him speak.
Okay, so number one would be what's now 5C, which is motion array waivers process and waivers committee. And then the next item would be what's now 5D, waivers committee election, 5 minutes. The next would be what's now item 6, consideration of WBAI budget, 60 minutes. And the next item would be what's now 8B, LFC radio report committee, and the motion to rescind the motion establishing that committee, and another motion concerning the committee. And then after that, we'll just go back through all the remaining items.
Can you repeat that, please, Madam Chair?
Yes, Lisa?
Was there no reason?
Yes. But everybody, please give it by Carol.
For the next meeting, it's not the next meeting yet.
Yeah, it is. Oh, it's still a continuation of that same meeting?
Yeah.
Well, by 2/3 vote, we could rescind it. We could still rescind it. Okay. Anybody else want to Lisa? Lisa has the floor. She's the only person who has the floor, please.
I was just asking if there was any consideration for.
Can't do that.
You can't, it's too far away.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I suggest that perhaps if that thing were turned in another direction, I can't see which way it's aimed, but it's either aimed off that way or at the chair. Maybe it could be aimed at the public.
Somebody please just turn that around. No, not that way.
Extension cord, whatever.
The other way. Hang on to the microphone down there.
I think we can just make do with what we have. I was just asking, was there any room for public comment at what you're doing right now?
Yes, public comment would follow the, I would say public comment would follow, actually, so it would be consideration of FY 2008 budget, then 4 would be public comment, 5 would be, okay? All right, okay. Yes, Fran?
But I just suggest that we add the point of inclusion whenever that this meeting continues, and we'll be at them for effective reporting.
What?
Number 8, add the point of inclusion.
No, we have to add that, you have to add that? We'll add that as G. After public comment? No, after 5, what's now 5, which is 8B, then we would do the committee of inclusion.
That's fine.
Okay. Yes, Mitch?
Yes. I have a couple of problems and also some points. Problem is that we never get to see the agenda ahead of time, at least this agenda. It wasn't mailed out ahead of time. And it would be good if, I'm not going to make a motion about that, but we should try and get the agendas out ahead of time so we don't have to go through this process the way we are. And so we can think about it, right? The other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to make a supplement, I don't know, a substitute motion that the entire meeting today be taken up talking about finances and the financial situation of the station, including the budget, and that it be done in the committee of the whole, so that everybody here who's so concerned, including people who are not on the board, so that we can all listen to Robert Scott Adams' report and other reports, and interchange with each other and discuss the situation at the station. So I'm making that as a motion that we conduct that as the sole business that we do today, and we do it in the committee of the whole. It's very pressing. layoffs. There were some reported layoffs, and we don't,
We
you know.
need to vote. All right.
Second.
Okay, so that's seconded. So we have a substitute motion and the entire meeting be, if there's any further comment. Yes, our call.
Madam Chair, the waivers committee is actually required by its own enabling motion in the first place to make its report. So,
Okay, I'll make a report.
but, okay, are we going to have the report after we've passed the
Yes.
motion and elected? That seems kind of not quite proper.
All right, well, that report. That report.
No?
Yeah, I distributed that report as Newark, where you were present. So you-
Yes, I know, but
Yes.
other
And
people.
that report is available for everyone else here, but I can give it briefly, and I believe there's a
But
minority.
it briefly is allowed. In other
All
words,
right,
I-
all right, Paul, you want there to be a brief waivers report as part of the 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, okay. All right, so all those in favor of Mitch Cohen's substitute motion to make the entire meeting be the finance committee report, please raise your hand.
And the committee as a whole.
And in a committee as a whole, please raise your hand.
What, point of information.
Yes.
I want to know exactly what I want to know exactly the requirement of the Raiders Committee because I would consider a friendly amendment to do that first, however many minutes.
There are no friendly amendments because the amendment was already an amendment to an amendment. So we have to deal with this amendment first.
All right, but in order to make this decision and then make an amendment to these motions again, I'd like to know what the enabling requirements are of the Waivers Committee. What happens if we don't hear from them tonight? I mean, what is the motion that requires them to report tonight?
No, that's basically not, what's most important is that the waivers committee get to work, because the deadline is August 31st, and nobody will be able to get a waiver if we don't get cracked. Mitchell?
But I want to know what our call meant about it.
Well, there's
I'm trying to
a
understand.
requirement, okay, I understand that you're trying to understand. There's a requirement that the waivers committee was supposed to give a report. We have that report. And it was actually on the agenda last time that the waivers committee would make a report, 10 minutes, motion to reestablish committee waivers process, 20 minutes. I'm willing to do the, I think we should make the report a bit shorter. I have it in form, everybody can have it, but Sean has a minority report. All those in favor of Mitchell's,
I have the, you called on me.
I did.
Yes, you did.
What's that, the waivers? The waivers thing?
Yeah, I'm willing to modify my motion so that it includes the waivers reports, because people find that so pressing. So that we'll do the waivers report, and the rest of the meeting be taken up by discussion of finances and budget, and in a committee of the whole, so that everybody can
All
participate.
those in favor of the meeting consisting solely of the waivers report, solely of the waivers report, you said? No. And the reconstitution of the waivers committee or not?
I modified my motion so that we have both the waivers report and the committee, waivers committee vote, whatever we need to do with that, and the rest of the meeting be taken up in addition to the waivers with discussion of the budget and financial matters in a committee of the whole.
Under normal circumstances, that would require a lot of convoluted stuff, but let's just, all those in favor of Mitch's substitute motion, the meeting consists solely of the waivers report, the reconstitution, and the waivers, motion to reestablish committee waivers process, and the finance committee, the finance of the station, and the committee, the whole. Please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That does not get a 2/3 vote for the
I
requires.
was wondering about why people would oppose that. There was no discussion.
Mitchell, that we're done. We're done. All right, so the next vote is that the agenda will begin with number 1, the motion to the regular report, the process to reestablish the committee and the election, which makes, and then followed by consideration of the budget, followed by public comment, followed by the LSP radio report committee, followed by the committee conclusion. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And then we'll back to the original agenda. Okay, all those in favor?
Wait, followed by the committee of inclusion and what?
And then back to what the the agenda was previously for the adjourned meeting, which goes back to various committee reports. Now, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that carries. All right, so let me get out my report. I have copies of this that you can have, so, okay. Basically, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but the committee, that committee actually began meeting at the end of June, which shows us how far behind we are now, and held public meetings, except for when the applications were being discussed, when addresses were being fixed. And,
Point of order.
yes?
Yeah, we just voted to amend the agenda. We didn't vote to approve the agenda yet. And I would like to make a motion on that. Wait, before you do that, I'd like to make a motion that the discussion of the finances and budget be conducted in the committee of the whole, so everybody can
You can
participate.
bring that up at your time. but you're
No, I
actually-
can't.
We're done.
I can't.
Okay, we're done.
You know that. But
And public comment will be entertained throughout that discussion, as it always is, and further.
Are you arguing my motion or against my
I am
motion?
in your order.
I'm perfectly in order. We didn't pass the budget. We didn't pass the agenda yet.
We just amended the agenda.
Right, and I'm making another amendment.
It's done.
We didn't vote on the agenda yet.
Yeah, I put a foot at that time.
All right,
This
Bob.
is not,
As we pointed out to everyone earlier, we already have an agenda adjourned in June. Okay, all we just did was make a change to what we voted and we don't need any more votes. We amended it, now we're proceeding.
I'd like to add another amendment to it.
yeah.
Okay, we're done. You
Point
want
of
to
order, Madam
amend the agenda?
Excuse me, only certain people are allowed to amend the agenda, not others.
Okay, fine, but make it quick, please allow me to.
Okay, go ahead.
Please make it quick.
My sole amendment is that we conduct the discussion of the finances and budget in a committee of the whole, so that everybody here can participate in that discussion.
I want a little clarification on that myself. Does this mean that we will not vote anything tonight with regard to anything that?
We could come out of the committee of the whole when we need to vote.
So you're willing to come out at some point, okay? All right,
I came out a long time ago, thank you.
all those in favor of the discussion of the finances, the committee of the whole, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all opposed.
There was 7 of them.
Wait, who was 7? I want to see the hands again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that does not carry. I will reiterate that an
7,
amendment
4,
to
and
the
6
agenda
opposed.
requires a 2/3 vote in order to pass. All right.
These 2/3.
It needs 2/3. All right, so the waivers committee basically drafted, and you'll see attached to the report when you get it, all the documents that were needed, including the cover letter, the actual waivers application itself, and cards, and everything was also translated into Spanish. And yes, how many of these Spanish? 5. Yeah. So there were some difficulties in setting up, which phone number would work and who could be trusted to take things off, take messages and whatnot. They were ironed out as best we could. Generated a list by the membership department, the persons who contributed between $10 and $24.99 since September 105, received letters, and the announcement of the availability of waivers, they were meeting bylaw criteria made on the air, on the station website. All this happened much later than we had wished. Then we met several times in executive session. The waivers committee actually had we wound up actually granting waivers to 7 listeners out of a total of 13 who responded to mailing cards. Some people actually sent money in that actually made them members without having to fill out a waiver form. Other people you couldn't meet. The work of the committee was very much hampered by the fact that one member had 2 family members die and had a serious accident, and another had a close family member die. And for that reason, one of our recommendations is that the waivers committee now be 5 people instead of 3. Because that definitely threw us for a loop. So that would be the short version. And Sean, do you want to add anything?
I have written my article report 5 weeks, and basically my report highlights the irregularities, the lack of concern about checks and balances within this process, and the tardiness of the community's work. I'll just briefly touch on 2 things. This August body decided to grant a waiver to an applicant who told us that she was available to volunteer on weekends. However, she was unaware of weekend volunteering opportunities. And I feel that's unfortunate, but that's not an example of a hardship, because the person was physically able to get out of the house and she could fit time for volunteering into her schedule. The other thing that I'd like to highlight is that while 7 listeners were granted waivers out of a total of 13, the folks who did not receive waivers were not declined. The committee simply never met to finish its work and determine the disposition of those remaining 6 items. And I also like to point out, with all due respect, that while the personal tragedies of the 2 committee members may have compounded the delays in the committee's work, the delays were not caused by those personal tragedies. In fact, this committee was late in doing its work long before the personal tragedies ever took place. For example, one of the other committee members had responsibility for the waivers card, which was to have been completed by Saturday, August 5th, but was not completed and put into rotation until Saturday, August 19th. So I just want to make that clear. That's all I was saying.
Okay, time is up for that. We now have the motion.
Excuse me, the question.
Yes. Yes, quickly though.
These members talking about irregularities, and we're just moving on. I mean, I know 13 or 7 is not a lot, so it's not consequential.
No, it's not consequential.
However, you know, the lack of...
Please only take a copy if you don't have one.
Mitchell, your foot is on the wire.
However, what seems to be a lack of transparency should be addressed.
Mitchell, your
Or
foot.
lack of process, lack of operational structure.
Foot is on the wire.
And it seems
The
like
wire.
nothing was happening.
The wire.
What do you suggest should be the remedy?
I suggest that
His
the
foot is
committee
on
as
the
a
wire.
whole addresses what
Mitchell's foot
this
is on
member
the wire.
has spoken about.
Well, would you suggest that perhaps the committee, when it does its work now,
Mitchell's foot is on the
attempt
wire.
to rectify those things as it does it rather than
And give us a report.
scratch our own? Okay, that's a plan. All right, so the actual motion is in the package we have, and that were handed out. It's on page, who's bringing this book? Who brought this book? Bob. Yes.
All right, so it's on page 2 of your packet.
What pack?
Yes, we passed it out. Everybody has the motions that were provisionally addressed at the July 14th meeting.
I don't have
It's a 3-page little item here. They were passed out to everybody. You have it, it says on the front, motions provisionally adopted by LSB on July 14th, 2007.
Didn't realize that you pointed out the packet. That's
How many minutes? 10 minutes. We're starting now.
Okay, so I'd like to ask for a motion to dispense with reading the entire motion and just summarize it since we have the text in front of us.
Which motion are you referring to?
Okay, it's on page 2, number 3, it says motion on membership waivers.
Can we have a minute then to read it?
Sure.
Why don't we do it opposed?
Wait, what is it?
Might be faster to read it, but
Read, please.
get it aloud so everybody knows what we're talking about?
Please don't interrupt while people are reading.
I'll summarize.
Madam Chair, please don't address a personal privilege. We do not need to be treated this way. It's a reasonable request by a member of the board so that the public, which has come to hear this meeting,
Would you please raise your hand and wait to be recognized and make a point of order? Yes.
I'm making a point of personal privilege about the way we're being addressed. The members here are making reasonable requests and they're being treated like children or idiots. To ask the public to be included in the understanding of what we're reading is not unreasonable and should not be dismissed in the way that you did it. We don't deserve this. We're trying to do our jobs.
I would prefer that the members be allowed to read this in peace, and that then when Bob brings the motion, he will then bring it in such a way as I think to make it clear.
I move to overrule the chair. I'd like to hear it read aloud. I don't know what the big deal is, to read something out.
The chair will now read it aloud.
Thank you.
Motion on membership waivers. Whereas the local station board is authorized by Article 3, Section 4 of the Pacifica bylaws to establish a process to provide waivers to WBAI membership requirements on a case-by-case basis to those who have, quote, a sincere interest in becoming a member of the foundation and are also genuinely unable to afford their contribution amount falling to the minimum of 3 hours of service, unquote, and whereas in order to fully realize the Pacifica bylaws mandate to ensure the station's diversity and inclusion, it is vital that WBAI membership be available to all who fulfill those conditions. Therefore, if I'm reading it, I would prefer that not side conversations not take place. Therefore, be it resolved that the WBAI local station board adopt the following process for membership waivers. 1. The LSB shall establish a waivers committee.
Can you go slower, please?
The LSB shall establish a waivers committee. The LSB shall establish a waivers committee consisting of 5 LSB members in good standing elected by the LSB using civil transferable voting, with the local election supervisor as a non-voting member, if one is in office available for committee meetings. At the time that the committee is elected, no LSB listener member who is eligible to run for re-election in that year shall serve on said committee. If the committee member resigns, he or he will immediately be replaced by the next runner-up. Each person wishing to apply for a waiver of membership requirements may either write a letter or fill out a form attesting that A, she or he has a sincere interest in becoming a member of the Pacifica Foundation, and B, she or he is yet unable to either contribute $25 to volunteer 3 hours to WBAI owing to hardship, including a 1-sentence statement as to why she or he is unable to volunteer. Each applicant shall sign and date the letter or form underneath the statement. I attest that all statements in this application for waiver are true. No applicant should be required to provide any other information or to appear before the committee. 3. Waivers committee shall review each application and vote by majority of those present only as to whether it meets the criteria specified in Section 2 above and thus shall be approved. For each approved application, the LSP directs the committee to notify the applicant, the local election supervisor, and the station's membership department that the applicant is to be added to membership rolls for the year following the approval. 4. For applications that the committee votes to reject or deems incomplete for the requirements in Section 2, the committee shall immediately notify the applicant in writing or, when possible, by phone, including a short statement for the reason for its rejection and finding of incomplete information. Such notification shall offer the applicant the option to appeal the decision and/or provide additional information in writing and shall include the terms and deadline for appeals. The applicant may choose to supplement his or her appeal by appearing before the committee in person or by a telephone conference call if requested at the station's expense. The committee will then reconsider the application and make a final decision. 5. All applications shall be kept confidential, and all meetings of the waivers committee which individual applications are discussed shall be held in executive session. 6. After the committee has finished its work following a record date, it shall provide a written public report to the LSP specifying how many applications were received, approved, rejected, or returned, owing to incomplete information, as well as any recommendations to improve the process. The confidential section of the report shall include an account of any rejections of applications and the reason for each rejection. At the time the report is submitted, all applications and documents related to applications shall be turned over to the LSP secretary or should keep custody of them permanently. These applications and documents relating to them should be available for inspection by the election supervisor upon request by LSP members in executive session. 7. The waivers committee shall at its first meeting approve the text of the waiver form in audio card, both of which shall include text summarizing the membership requirements and the waiver process. The initial form and card shall each include the deadline for becoming a member of record in time to obtain a ballot in the next LSP election. All of this information shall be placed on the LSP's outgoing voicemail on both the LSP and WBAI election sections of the WBAI website and requested to be otherwise disseminated by the station through various means. The LSP secretary will establish a post office or referral mailing box for receipt of applications. 8. The LSP requests that as soon as the committee approves the waiver form, the station immediately send letters to all people in the WBAI database who have donated between $5 and $24.99 since the preceding record, $5 and $24.99 since the preceding record date, informing them of the waiver option and enclosing in a waiver form. Is there any time left now for discussion?
few businesses are, as the committee suggested, that 3 was too few people. It raised that number to 5 members of the committee. I think it was also the committee that suggested that the letter that would be sent to every person who donated, it would go down to the level of $5. Last year, it was only people who donated 10 or more. This year, it would be anyone who donated 5, between 5 and $24.99. Just to really reach out to everyone who's shown a real interest in the station. And as far as I know, that those are the only changes. Those are just continuing the same process. And I think whatever mistakes might have been made last year, there's now more experience, and that can be rectified, and really more attention can be given this year to really follow the procedures.
All right.
Okay, we are done.
Part of, can I have a microphone, please? Excuse me, pull us the microphone. Point of information, Madam Chair.
Yes.
This is for an ad hoc committee, not a standing committee, correct?
No, it's a standing committee.
Point of order then, it's out of order. Standing committee requires previous notice and a 2/3 vote.
All right, yes, Bob, it's your motion.
Okay, I move to amend to make it an
Second, anything is what it
Moved and seconded to make it an ad hoc committee. Yes, we're at time. We're at time. Time is up.
Move to extend, we have to discuss this motion.
Well, just move to extend. By how much?
Move to extend.
By how much?
10 minutes.
There's a motion to extend.
Second.
Moved and seconded to extend by 10 minutes. All in favor?
All in favor?
All in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that does not carry.
Move to extend by 5 minutes. We can't do this
Move to
without
extend by
discussion.
5 minutes. And seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All opposed? 9. Did you raise your hand up in favor of those? 9, 10? Oh, again, all in favor? Everybody, I count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in favor, all opposed. 1. Okay, so that carries. 5 minutes.
Okay.
That means one person may speak for 3 minutes and one person may speak for 2 minutes. Andrea? Andrea?
I think 5 members is too few. Experience of 3 members with enough to increase it by only 2 is, I think, a mistake, especially when we had a very successful waivers committee the previous year that operated with 7 members. So I would move to increase the number of waivers committed to at least 7.
Well, it has to be the exact number.
Oh, 7.
Okay.
I don't know if that's amended or what, but I would like to other people.
All right, it's moved and seconded to increase the number of committee members to 7. Yes, Ray?
I would put this motion, like other committees, we could have 12 people who just earn membership by doing and becoming part of the discussion. These are specific members who cannot really be placed by anybody else. So if these members don't show up, the committee cannot function. Therefore, the larger the committee, the harder it is for you to actually perform.
Okay. If you didn't hear him, the point was that the larger the committee, the harder it is to make quorum. Yes.
That these members that cannot be substituted for.
Right, because the members cannot be substituted. Yes.
And I have to be there when it is involved, and there are 7 people here elected altogether going up. But what I'd like to speak to really is the LSB secretary to establish a post office or even a mailing box for receipt of application, which is fine. But, when I was chairing this board, there was such a stack about checks and balances. There's nothing here about who goes to this post office box, who has access to this post office box, to pick up the information so that people can double check each other. See, this might be like not a very important point, but it depends on who has majority. You know, this was such a big deal when we had the majority of the board, and it seems strange that there's no provision to talk about how this is going to be done, so that you can just assume transparency.
Okay, just as a matter of information, last year, I mean, there were already visiting post office box, and last year, Sean and usually there was always one person, you know, from each group who went to the post office box. Nobody ever went by themselves.
Okay, so
Yeah, so there was,
in the motion.
in the report.
No, in the motion.
We already have two amendments to the motions. To the motion, Charles, will fix your time. We have 2 minutes. Any further discussion?
Point of
Yes, Ann?
information.
Yes.
If a motion requires many amendments because it's a lousy motion, how do you deal with that parliamentarily?
Then you extend the time. If people feel that it requires an extension of time, the time is extended. Anybody else wish to speak?
So we have 2 amendments.
I don't see any who wish to speak. Okay. So we'll begin with Andrea's amendment, which is to increase the number of people on the committee to 7. All in favor of the amendment to increase the number of people on the committee to 7, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that does not carry. All right, and all those in favor of Bob's amendment to make this an ad hoc committee, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, by no objection? All right, without objection, we can say without objection.
So it's an ad hoc.
Without objection, so yes. So this now is an ad hoc.
What do we call it?
We'll now say the LSP shall establish an ad hoc committee. All right. Now we'll vote on the motion as amended, which will now read at number 1, the LSP shall establish an ad hoc committee. All those in favor?
Okay. I'm
The
establishing.
motion as amended. Motion as amended. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All opposed?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
does this include, exclude checks and balances on?
This is the motion as it was just amended. Nobody made any further amendments. So that motion, how many, I have,
Secretary, again, how many were in favor?
15.
all right, and how many opposed? We'll get through that again. All opposed? None opposed? 1 opposed? I'm asking again, who's opposed?
I'm opposed.
All right, what?
Checks and balances.
All right, so that passes. Now we open nominations for the waivers committee. Yes, please.
I nominate,
There's no way to let it. I'm sorry, I went the other way. All right, Ian, do you accept? You accept? Do you accept? Yes, I nominate.
2 weeks.
Yes, Ian.
I nominate Margaret.
All right.
Who?
Yes, Sarah.
I'm not here.
You just nominated me.
Oh.
Sarah?
I nominate Serene.
Serene? Are you willing?
I am.
Okay. Anybody else?
Nominate Sean.
Sean, are you willing?
Sure.
All right. Bob?
I nominate Bertha Silva, and I did speak to her before, and
Okay. Yes, Nia?
I nominate Timmy Brooks.
Timmy, are you willing?
No.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Nominate Captain Davis.
Kathy, are you willing to serve on this committee? Okay. Kathy Davis?
Yeah,
Uh, Ray LaFarge, Ray or two? Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Mitch. Carolyn Bird. Okay. One more? I nominate Bob Letter. Bob? Joe. Nice. Okay. All right, so we have now Nia, Sreen, Vajra, I'm not going to finish into your word. Sreen, Vajra, Nia, Vera Silva, Sean, Kathy Davis, Ray, and Carolyn Bird. Okay? All right. Somebody distribute ballots.
How many people are there?
Five.
That's five?
Okay. I'll read the list again after ballots are handed out. Nia, make sure everybody just gets one. Why don't you just hand them, we can give ballots to people directly, so we make sure everybody just gets one. Where's the yes? Yeah. Well, so that we can hope that everybody does.
We hope. Somebody would pick it up on one person.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's
Somebody can do it, yes. Well, somebody can do it. Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could I suggest, since we have a permission for runners up in this, that the chair make a note that people may vote for more than 5, therefore?
Yes, people may vote for more than one.
But they should number it.
Number them, yes. But you must number, but please number them all in the order that you want, and it would be very helpful if you did not give any two people the same numbers. It plays havoc. So rank people.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Speak your name again, please.
All right. Well, I want to wait till everybody has a ballot. Yes, but everybody has a ballot. There's only one missing. 2 S2. Did you make 24? More than enough. Missing one. That should be only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Nice to see new people.
All right, the names are Sreen Roberts, Vajra Kilgour, Nia Bediak, Vera Silva, Sean Rhodes, Kathy Davis, Ray LaFarge, Carolyn Bird. Sreen Roberts, Vajra Kilgour, Nia Bediak, Vera Silva, Sean Rhodes, Kathy Davis, Ray LaFarge, Carolyn Bird. All right, so we're going to move on. We're going to move on then. There should be a total of 20 ballots, no more or less. And we're going to move on now to the next agenda item, which is the Finance Committee report and consideration of the FY 2008 WBAI budget. And we have an hour for that. It's now 8:15, so that will bring us to 9:15. We understand that Robert's got Robert, do you have to leave at 9? A point of order. Okay, yes. What time are those comments slated for?
Public comments are at 8:45.
If there's no objection, we can schedule them at 9. We'll integrate them, we'll have them at 9, it'll be part of this discussion. Okay. All right, so, 2 separate things. Okay.
Oh, that wasn't a yellow.
Okay, we'll integrate, excuse me, we'll integrate Mr. Thomas and go along at 9, public comment,
All right, I'll make it a little wider.
All right, so who goes first here? Would that be you, Louis? Careful, be careful of the fire.
Okay, what's being handed out this evening?
Veronica, you need a microphone. You want to use this one? Make sure it's just 20. Yeah, come sit over here, Ruth. Yeah. All right, there's a general, if there's anybody else, member of the public who wants to help, or look over Marcus's shoulder while he's doing the vote count, anybody who's willing to do that? Willing to help out with that? No? Yes, thank you.
What? And that needs someone to count the votes. I gotta do this till Albert goes back. Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. As, well, just by way of background for those of you that don't know the process, WBAI is part of the Pacifica Foundation, and WBAI, like all the other stations in the foundation, have to put together a budget prior to the beginning of each fiscal year. That process begins with management. It includes the local station board. Once the budget is approved by the local station board, it is then submitted to the national office, to the CFO, who combines our station budget with budgets from the other stations and the national office and the archives, and presents that to the National Finance Committee, which, upon their approval, will submit the budget to the Pacifica National Board, which will then, if it deems so, approve the budget, and that will be our operating budget for the coming year. What we're doing tonight is I'm presenting, along with the IGM and the program director, the most recent draft of the budget as laid out by our local finance committee meeting. And the way the process, where we are now in the budget process, does everybody have well, the board members have, I believe, have a draft of the budget. The budget that you see in front of you, the local finance committee was presented a budget which had a surplus of approximately $30-some thousand. Now, just another piece of information by way of background. The Pacifica National Board has set a policy whereby each station has to present a budget which includes a surplus equal to 1 month's operating expenses. Depending on the year, 1 month's operating expenses for our station could be anywhere from $240,000 to $280,000. So it is the goal of the station to generate a budget with a surplus of approximately $240,000. Now, we were given a budget that initially started out with a surplus of $30,000. But a lot of issues were raised at the meeting that required us to make adjustments in areas that we thought were critical. And as a result, unfortunately, we ended the meeting with no surplus, but with deficit. And as you see the budget in front of you, that is the budget that came out of the National Finance Committee. I'm sorry, it came out of our local finance committee. And let me run through some of the major items that were in the $30,000 surplus budget, which we ultimately made adjustments to. The big area where we made changes was in the area of staff salaries. The budget as presented to us included a reduction of $100,000 in staff salary, which was equal to 3 full-time equivalents. $100,000, which was equal to 3 full-time equivalents, meaning 3 full-time positions at the station. The consensus on the committee was that we did not want to. The consensus on the committee was that they did not want to implement $100,000 reduction. The budget also included a new position, a part-time, half-time IT person. We could not implement that recommendation because the Pacifica National Board passed a resolution that stated that for the coming fiscal year 07-08, no new positions could be added to the budget. The only positions that would be in the budget were positions that existed in the 06-07 budget, and that half-time position was not in the budget, so we could not implement that suggestion. The budget also included elimination of the development director, a position that we have not filled that was in the budget for the current year, but which we have not been able to fill. So that budget was, that particular position was restored to the budget.
Restored?
It was restored, right? The development director has been restored to the draft of the budget that you have in front of you. The other issue, the other major item that was presented was that we felt as though the premiums number was a little high. The draft that we had premium expenditures at $168,000, and we felt as though there could be some savings there, and that premium number was reduced to $150,000. We also have a handout which shows the details of the listener support number. Listener support is included in the budget at $2,440,000. If you look at the separate handout, you'll see the details of that listener support, 5.5, the total rate assumptions, totaling to $2,440,000.
Question?
Yes.
I assume that the mailings, or that, I assume that the mailings on that detail are renewal mailings, is that correct? Do you know what that figure represents?
I'm going to pass that over to Robert, because he's a little more closer to the mailing number. Robert, is that renewals or that's? It's all mailings. It's all mailings, regardless of.
No, you need the mailings, it's $50,000. Right. That's the mail time.
All right.
Okay, Robert, can you please come over to the, what is that renewal? Is the mail drop renewal?
We're proposing having 2 mail drops in the fall and the winter. They used to claim that you could make $40,000. I think it's more like $25,000. The last Pacifica mail drop netted about $25,000 earlier this year. So I think that's a good thing.
So you say the next drugs netted each 25,000?
I think they would net
Do
$25,000.
we have the figures for the last strike? One of the things I've been trying to understand was how large a number of pieces we mailed, what the cost of the mailing was, and what the total revenue was, so we can figure out just how profitable the mailings are.
The reason Pacifica mail drop was not, was basically, as far as I'm concerned, it wasn't successful at all. Our expenses far exceeded the amount of money we were raising. If we could do it locally, as opposed to have Pacifica do it for us, A, will save money, and B, will be able to target the people down to 11.
So I'm not understanding. I thought that all BAI's subscription renewal mailings were local, that the station sent out the mailings. At least that was my understanding.
Oh, they are.
Yes. But the last one was done by Pacifica, not by...
Pacifica is a six-state mail where they connected BAI and Pacifica. The language was, we're Pacifica, but we're sending us out from the building to BAI. I think it was conceived because it mixed the message as far as I was concerned.
But, so now I'm confused, because Lonnie Hicks at the last PNB meeting, and the old PNB meetings, says that these mailings make a lot of money.
For Pacifica, they make a lot of money. They didn't make a lot of money for us.
So the mailing is a success, but they didn't give any money to the WBAI?
But what I'm saying is, Pacifica's mailing for Pacifica makes money. This six-state mail trial is especially designed for us. But after our expenses of procuring lists, paying for lists, something we normally don't do, after all the expenses, we only made about $25,000, which to me is not successful.
So that was a net, 25,000?
Yes, about 25,000 so far. It's a net.
Thank you.
So,
Are you done presenting the budget?
Well,
People will be done asking
a question.
questions. I understand that, but I'm asking Baruch, and he's done yet presenting the budget. Is there anything else you need to present before we start taking questions?
no, maybe we should just have a
Okay. Mitchell?
Yeah, this is a question of how realistic are these 80% fulfillment rates?
Well, right now, we're averaging between 78 and 79% for the last 6 months.
Right, but that makes that 2 or 3% difference is
Well, I'm
multiplies out to a
I
lot.
understand. I mean, again, the average between 78 and 79%, I'd like to increase it to 83%.
Our Paul?
Yeah, the FY07 budget had a provision for these Pacifica mailings that were being done first. That was supposed to bring in a net of $200,000. So has that not happened?
No, I just said it didn't happen.
Right. I want to make that for sure. What is the total? Because
I
last
just said around $25,000.
for the whole.
I just said it.
So instead of 200, we got 25.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I want to jump in before we take any more questions, just to let everyone know that the budget with this particular deficit, if the National Finance Committee adheres to the policy of a one-run reserve, this would be unacceptable. It's revealing of the CFO that if we can get a reserve equivalent to approximately 1/2 of one's reserve, you could obtain what's called a waiver, which is what you would need in order to, if we didn't meet the 1 month reserve, we would need a waiver in order to operate with the budget that the station has recommended. So we have to get from where we are at least to 1/2 month reserve. So I just wanted to, as folks are digesting this, to keep that in mind.
There's no guarantee that it's happening.
Right, there's definitely no guarantee. As I indicated at the Finance Committee meeting, if you know people who are on the National Finance Committee, who you consider to be your allies, and you would like to help the station, this might be a good time for those of you that want to minimize these particular painful cuts to solicit their support. If we can get to that half-a-month reserve, under the, to help the station move ahead. So.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, he is next.
Okay. This, I mean, I know I'm using my magnifying glass, but this this doesn't look like what we had in the finance committee meeting. I know the LSP numbers are filled in, but my question, and I know I've been asking this question, sorry? Okay, I've been asking this question over and over. that I know the reason the budget was out of sync is because Andrew had said that the salaries there were people that came on vacation that they had to pay, extra people to come in and so forth. Has that been factored into this budget? I don't, about.
From the salary breakdown, it was this afternoon.
It's.
Because we had, there was one line of questions about $8,000. What is it? That's the line that I observed.
Okay, I know Indra wasn't here, but I know right in this building, it was about 2 years ago, that there was a salary overrun of $81,000 to be exact, that you've been asking information about that. So you're saying it's that was worked out, it's not going to be 81,000, it's going to be 8,000?
I just know that, what happened the other few days ago, we were discussing the fact that it didn't seem to be a lot, it didn't seem to be a line that was taken into account, the fact that the word was said, and I was told that this is a different figure that we're looking at today, was accounted for. $81,000.
I guess I need to be more convinced because how many FTEs? 30-something? What's the minimum? I guess I'm just not convinced by that. 8,000 seems low.
Well, this is a footnote to that. It would be, I think the union minimum is about $20 an hour, approximately. So $8,000 would cover about $8,000 would probably be about 400 plus hours of coverage for absences and sick leave. I think the actual number in the budget is $8,700. So that would give us about 435 hours of coverage to be either out on sick or vacation leave and so forth.
Okay, the Barbara stepped away. Who's next? Who's next? Lisa, okay.
I just want to say, please pertain to the mail drop because I remember having a conversation along the after the committee meeting, and there's so much going on, and specific stuff that escapes me, but I just think it's worth it now to try to find out more information in terms of what happened with this particular mail drop, in terms of why it wasn't the way it had been before, because it's my understanding that before they had been successful, at least, I guess on the whole, but I remember you said specific things this time in terms of what happened, so I'll just get that information again. And also I just wanted to, I see I was looking under the telephone expenses, and I had run into, actually Road Warrior, and he reminded me of this, because I remember, with KCSK, that they said that they were able to, have some substantial savings with their phone expenses of about several $1,000s. I think I want to say about 30,000. But I would just like to maybe make a suggestion that we can look over that thing too, because they were able to make some drastic savings by looking at their phone expenses, and so I just want to bring that.
I guess there was no question there.
We should.
Is there a question, Lisa?
A question, I'm sorry.
Did you have a question? Or it was just...
Well, I was making reference, I think we should look into that, and definitely look at the KPFK and ask what they did in terms of their expenses with their phones.
Okay. Andrea?
Hello, what was the reason that you said that the development director was restored to the budget?
We had some.
Oh, I thought that we had none in the finance committee.
Yes, there was consensus. Oh, yeah, there was a consensus that the development person be added back to the budget.
Even though we're not allowed to add it.
No. See, the development person is in the current year's budget. We just haven't been able to fill the position. it's not a new position, it's just, we reversed the elimination of the position, but it is in the budget.
Yes, it seems that we're free for, and I have two questions. One is, what happens if we do not meet one of those underwriting the crash and we have to do getting payroll? It seems to me that the only thing that can actually help us is fundraising, which has to be developed regularly, like immediately, because anything that does not go well here, we're going to crash.
I think, Robert,
I mean, that's all.
What was the question?
Well, it seems that, we don't, it's like if you don't meet any of those goals of fundraising, we will crash, we're already at minus like 100,000. And second is, it seems to me that, this board and no one else really is talking about fundraising outside of, fundraising. And it seems like this looks desperate to me. This is very, serious.
Next is Kathy Mitch, and then Kathy Mitch and okay, Kathy Mitch.
And then I think we'll put it up to the public. At a couple of the finance meetings, there was talk about money that Pacifica has that belongs to WBAI. Are there any efforts to get money for some investment, some stock that, in particular, like Pacifica investment in the, whatever income that was received from, I forget what it's called, but the band that's aside to the on-air band. There was some income received from that. And also there was at one point a reclassification of off-air donations and Pacifica claiming some percentages of those off-air donations. So I'm wondering if there's any effort to equal the books based on what they have that belongs to the
You're talking about leasing side bins?
one of the things I'm talking about.
I thought I'm not supposed to talk about this.
What I know from the history is that the sideband income is national office income.
It wasn't always.
No, it's not, it wasn't always national office income, but, since I've been here and their position, well, there's two issues. One is that they say they're not collecting anything for our sideband at this point in time.
Well, maybe.
But even if they were collecting it, their position is that sideband income generated by us and all of the other stations is national office income. Now, the P&B, obviously the P&B can change that policy. That's an internal policy. So if there's a lobbying effort to get that done, then that's something that can be done. But right now, the P&B position is that that income belongs to national office. The investments, there is some investments. I don't know how we would tap into that, but that's there are some investments that are there's an investment fund that includes investments that BAI has received in the past. It's not new money that came into play that came into the past.
But my point is that on paper, if it's equal books, I mean, if they have money that legally belongs to BAI, it can be applied to their benefit that we owe them. Is my point.
Well, I think there have to be some steps that have to be gone through in order for that to take place. But there are some investments.
What information? The side is not generating money right?
Who's next on the list?
I don't know information.
Who's next on the list?
Is Mitch.
You just had a little
What information?
Oh,
The side was not generating money right now. Right? There's no income from that. So even for us at this point, it's a good thing.
Right.
Okay, Mitch.
It's one of the concerns we had in the Finance Committee meeting was of the particular insurance companies, the health insurance companies, and how they got to be foisted on us by national. And so I'm concerned if there was any follow-up to that, and I have a series of questions related to that. The first is on page 2, and what my concern is that we can possibly work together with other nonprofits to get a collective healthcare plan. So we'd like to have that explored more fully, and I don't know if that goes to national or if it goes to management here, but to try and create more power, more of a block in getting that. But my question has to do on page 2, on line 56 and 57, where health benefits this year were 8.5 thousand, and next year they're projected to 10 times that amount. So I was wondering what that's about. And also on the line below that, on the after increase in benefits, this year is projected at 247,000. Next year it's projected at $100,000 less than that, according to this.
I think there's a classification issue. I think if you look at both lines, combine both of those lines together across both years, the numbers are comparable. I think it's more of a classification issue, and also I think people are transitioning from the after to private health insurance. But I think overall you see that the numbers they're in the ballpark. The numbers are comparable.
And have we got the information?
Bob wants to add something, please, on this particular point. Oh, wait.
It's
Steve, Serene, and
I want
Bob.
to find out if we got the information on the insurance company itself, and if we, and if we understand whether that's the best insurance company to get, or how that arrived at the station, that particular insurance company that's being used.
Actually, Bob says you can answer that.
A former member of the state staff, part of AFTRA, when this was discussed.
It's not clear. Can you start again?
All right.
All right, please, everybody, do not speak when he's speaking. That way you'll be able to hear.
Okay, so what I can tell you is that when we were negotiating the contract now in force, it called for the paid staff to be offered the option of entering into the AFTRA plan or sticking with the plan that the station already had at the time, I think for both management and some paid staff, which was with Oxford. And that's, for better or worse, that was the decision the union made, was to, and management agreed to that all staff would have the option to choose which plan they want to enroll in. And so, as Bruce said, any glitches in the numbers are just kind of people switching over plans, but actually the overall figure is not going up very much.
It's gone up by 30 hours. Because you had it.
Oh, I'm sorry. One of the pieces in that notice it says increase. The contract calls for a cost of living increase retroactive to 2004, 5, 6, and 7. So that's part of what that figure is. A lot of that already, the retroactive already is paid, so there's one schedule for October.
All right.
Just one quick thing. After Steve and Serene, Robert has some suggestions about what we can do to get us close to where we need to be. So if we could do those two and then let Robert raise the suggestions, I think we can possible.
Okay, Steve.
Rudy, you made a comment that if anyone who's the members on the finance committee, we should try to get some or all of the cushion of 250, 200,000 set aside or waived. And you said that would help the station move on. It's my understanding that the cushion is to enable us to pay staff, to pay our rent and our transmission lease. If something happened, we didn't reach our money in the fund drive. If we would have waived that cushion or not have to have it, and we didn't make our fund drives, what is the plan for carrying on, for making sure the station can still operate? Conversely, if we do use some of our money to put up that cushion, How do we deal with that in the budget? How would that change the budget? If national insists.
Two things. If we were able to get the waiver and we didn't have a successful drive, the items that, management would then have to do what what is not desiring to do at this point, because obviously we've got to balance the budget. So some of the cuts that aren't being, I won't say delayed, but some of the cuts potential cuts that aren't being implemented now would have to be implemented at that particular point in time.
Are they all salary cuts?
Unfortunately, salary is the area where we have the most flexibility. In terms of large numbers, because the big number items are salary and fringes are your biggest item in the budget.
That's a dangerous policy, because isn't it true that if you suddenly find yourself $200,000 short on Thursday, you can fire 3 people on Friday, but that money is not going to kick in for 6 months or 8 months or 9 months, because nobody gets their whole year's salary at one time. So if you need $200,000 between Thursday and Friday, firing 3 people on Friday will not make you any better off. You still will not be able to pay your rent to the Empire State Building and to Silverman or owns.
Right, but we still going to have a half month reserve. Now, we're not talking about eliminating, at least I'm not proposing. There's differing opinions, but from my perspective, I'm not eliminating the reserve entirely. My position is that we should have a half month reserve.
We should have 3 months reserve.
Well,
1 month reserve.
that would be the best case scenario. But I'm saying I maintain that we do need a reserve of a half a month now. A half a month would give us enough time. A half a month is $150,000. Our payrolls, I think, run about, I don't know the exact number, but let's say it's ballpark about $50,000 for payroll. So a half month reserve should give us a little bit of a cushion. But obviously, as you indicated, if we have a bad drive, then more drastic than we have.
Is there any way, if you have a bad drive, not to belabor this, if you have a bad drive and the cushion of half a month is not sufficient, cutting salaries at that point will have 0 effect over the period of half a month? What can the station do other than go on the air and beg for the rest of the year? What can the station do to get an immediate infusion of cash to pay its salary, its rent, its transmitting obligations?
Well, see, the timing of the money isn't like we get the money immediately. Remember that this is like we're receiving money now from old drives, so it's not like a bad drive today, you immediately have no money. You know what I'm saying? This money is received over a period of time. So a bad drive today, you really may not feel the impact for 3 months.
The money from each drive is already spent by the time we get it.
But you get 40-50% of the money comes in almost immediately. But the balance of the money comes out because everybody doesn't pay immediately. So the balance of the money is not received immediately. So if you have a bad drive, you're going to have time to react to it. It's not like you have a bad drive, all of a sudden the money is dried up because you're receiving money from old drives. So the money sort of rolls, for lack of a better description, because you receive money now from old drives.
It's a very, very short taper. We're not receiving huge amounts of money from prior money.
Yeah, but right, the bulk of the stuff is currently approximately 50% is received immediately. I'm sorry.
All right, Serene.
Serene and Robert Melanin suggested to then we'll move on.
There are a number of things on this budget that are under the office really not concerned. They reflect information that we've been requesting for almost 2 years, information that was denied to us when we requested them the current business manager, which is interim general manager, and that still has not been provided.
Serene, this is a really bad time.
Serene,
You're really having difficulty hearing you.
Yes, please do address the chair and not the person. Serene, is this better? Yeah, a little closer. This is closer to the mic that's been to other people's mouth is getting. There are a number of problems with information. There's a number of listed in this budget. Many of which they could have been addressed had we not been denied information by the current business manager, both as business manager and as interim general manager, because there are outstanding information requests that go back to November of 2005, specifically with regard to salary the question of the difference in interest, for example, between
Madam Chair,
protected.
could you pass Serena a different mic? She didn't comprehensible.
All right, I will take it. Please let Serena use the microphone. And I would like to suggest that if people will please refrain from any talking whatsoever. It's
really hard to hear.
This is not so small matter, this is really very close. Way too close for comfort.
You could use that mic over there, actually.
No, I don't think I'll do anything over there, thanks. There are a number of outstanding information requests, information that was requested of the current business manager during the time of the interim general manager and since she's been back as business manager. Outstanding requests since November of 05, making it impossible for me to support this budget, as it made it impossible for me to support the last budget. There are questions about salary overruns where apparently simple, well, not being a CPA myself, I can only say that in running a business, I think you always must take illness, vacation, holidays into account when you budget for salaries. So it is amazing to me that that has not been done in any budget that's been apparently presented to us in the past couple of years. And therefore, we're constantly in a state where the salaries are over budget because things that should have been considered were not considered. I don't understand. Well, I'm asking specifically, there are a number of lines that I have particular concerns about. On page 1, line 9, on the issue of interest, we're down to 3,000 for next year, supposed to be 9,000. That's the projected annual this year. The salary line, on page 2, line 52, I still believe does not include vacation, sick pay, holiday days here, 12 holidays a year for X number of staff. Part-time people, half-time people still have those holidays. And replacement labor has to be calculated into the budget, otherwise it can't possibly be a budget. The pension line of $6,000 is laughable. More than half the staff is way under the Title 45. You passed a motion asking that information be brought to us at the Finance Committee concerning making sure that people knew where their pensions, now that they finally have pensions, and apparently that didn't begin until a few months ago, that you know where their pensions are, that they can check and see what the amounts are. None of that has been implemented. So $6,000 is maybe two people's contribution. That's their contributions for a year. It certainly is not that of a 34-person staff. You know, regardless of what small amount they're contributing, so that's flawed. It's not going further. What is local travel to the tune of, what's that, page 2, line 71? If it was $3,200 projected this year, on what grounds are we assuming it will be cut by 1/3? Or almost by 1/4, 2/1/4 rather. In terms of personnel search, what on earth did we spend $6,000 trying to find last year? In terms of LSB expense, the only thing that the only LSB expense is when those of us who are willing to get the speaker dragged from place to place. If we have a car, we get compensated the $10 we put out for parking if we can't find free parking. Or in the rare case when we don't have, some car vehicle to use, we may have to take a cab because we can't really carry anything on the subway. So I don't see where that LSB expense is coming from. Satellite interconnect is going to $7,000. Is there?
Serena, I'm sorry, Serena, Robert has to leave shortly because
I'm saying that these are questions that have been asked and unanswered, remain unanswered in the Finance Committee. And it is ridiculous that we should have such difficulty getting basic information about what is in the budget. We don't get updates when we ask for current spending. We get everything is in the black, or we're paying our bills. What the heck does that mean? What does that mean from a business manager? Okay,
Yeah.
I don't think John has that, not all. Okay, Robert?
Just a couple of things that I think may at least reduce the deficit somewhat. This budget we're looking at is $98,000 in the red. What we like to do is not to produce these raises that happen every year, but these raises that like to freeze them 4%, even about $50,000. Like I'll propose a 5% cut across the board of salaries, about $50,000.
Pardon me, Robert, can you speak slowly?
Slowly?
No, it's good. I just want to make sure that.
About $50,000.
Excuse me, does it mean that the program director's salary is, I don't know what the reduction in salary means.
Please allow me to finish before we have public comment.
Come on,
I understand that, you do want a development director, but you don't have the money to pay certain things and reduce the salary and take the development position out. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, central services, we don't have to pay the $150,000 we owe, we only have to pay the $50,000 right now. And if we increase the fulfillment rate from the 79 to 83%, that should bring in conservatively about $50,000 to $75,000. And there are small things like, for example, monitoring postage on premiums that we send out. Sometimes we send out premiums that may have first-class postage posted about $1.85. And we really monitor the weight of it, they may only cost $1.65. Now, 33 cents is not, it's pennies. If you multiply that times, say, 2,000 premiums 4 times a year, that's somewhat savings. We're talking about not saving anywhere over here. At this point, I would like to have Bernard come up and give you guys his ideas about how we can also save money.
Question in there, cutting salaries.
I'm sorry.
Just to cut in the salaries that you're advocating, does that include management salaries?
Everybody. Everybody. Across the board.
Ray has a question.
Why isn't this put out?
Ray has a question, please allow Ray to have a
Can I get a point of information? Well, one of the provisos, Robert, I meant, you may have overlooked this. The salary cuts, the 5%, people who had not received raises in the last 2 years or more were going to be excluded from the cost of the board 5%. Okay, so I don't want to folks to say, well, you said everybody, I just wanted to put that proviso in. If you had not received a raise in the last 2 years or more, you were being exempted from the 5% across the board.
Yeah, I was going to say that, although I understand that cutting into the reserve takes some concern, I believe that this is what it's for the pickup moment. So the question about the cut in salary is the staff being consulted, the unions about this cut?
Well, we come to you first, because we have your sort of report. This is a suggestion.
Yes.
At this point, we're not, I understand on Thursday about to discuss these things. At this point, this is nothing, it's not some people suggest looking for other ways out.
So is that really implementation then? Is that plan to discuss this with the staff and the unions?
Well, we have to discuss the unions.
Okay, Ron?
Question? Chair?
Yes.
Question. Robert, in here is an item of legal expenses for about $50,000, and current legal expenses are also paid at $50,000, as far as you know. Now, it so happens that already legal expenses for just 2 cases are over $60,000. The Mel case and the Santiago Nieves case. Legal costs, without any decision yet, are at $60,000. Those costs are going to be marked against this station when these cases are done. So how can we only budget $50,000 for next year when those don't include these legal costs? I see legal costs ongoing, maybe $150,000, $200,000.
I was told that Dan Siegel did a deal with us, where he's capping his salary, and that's where it comes. That came from.
But that's Dan Siegel's salary, that's a different story. What I'm talking about here are the court costs involved. Dan Siegel charges us a flat rate which is prorated amongst the stations. Now, I'm talking about the ongoing legal costs in specific cases which have already been billed to Pacifica by Skadden Arps, $60,000 in just 2 cases. And those cases are still ongoing. They made hundreds of thousands of dollars, nobody knows.
I'm not sure.
Yes, I think this has to be taken up at the national level, because Dan Siegel basically said that he put a cap of $15,000 on expenses in New York and in Northeast of all cases. So if expenses were to be going towards more than that, the national court would have to review that. And a lot of this decisions were taken at the national court. So I don't know if my PNB board members probably would have to fight to at the national court level, so that we do not take all that hit.
If you as a member of the national board will assure us that you will not vote for more than $15,000.
It's now 9 o'clock, at which time we said we would have public comment. If there's no objection, I would like to proceed. And if Bernard could speak to these first, and then we'll have public comment, is there any objection?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
And Robert Scott is able to stay. Can we ask him to stay to answer the public's question?
Robert, there are today.
Listen, if I went on under a doctor's care and I have to take a certain medicine at a certain time every night, I would do it. This is not, it's not frivolous.
Okay. So don't ask me. All right, Bernard?
Okay, can you hear me? There are a variety of different things that we discussed. General manager, the IGM, about areas that we could, that we need to take a special look at in order to see what we can do about increasing revenue. Many of them had to do with specific programs, with the on-air program, and others had to do with some internal adjustments. And areas where we need to pay attention to.
Internal what? I'm sorry, is there a better mic?
Internal adjustments, he said.
Your mic is very.
You might have heard that. If you come over here, you can hear better.
That's the way this thing is aimed.
Right, turn it around at your desk, and now we're unhappy with it.
No, it's worse.
You might not want to see any good one.
I think maybe.
This is 11.99.
What? Oh, this one here? Is there any way you can just turn that thing so that it's...
How is it going? Get back to you.
Is better?
Yes.
Oh, good. As I said, we had some discussions about some areas in which we could make some internal adjustments that would help us to increase our fulfillment rate. We talked about some special on-air programs that we hope will stimulate listeners. We also talked about, and some of the experience that some of us who have been in the city for a long time have in terms of these periodic slumps in revenue, and they all seem to happen around the same period, around whenever there's an election of a president. Especially in the first term, there's a lot of excitement, and we wind up doing fairly well. And then as time goes on, things kind of drop out. And when there's going to be a change in administration, we seem to do well again because folks begin to listen to us because they get tired of hearing a lot of the same things in all of the rest of the media. So we wind up getting a bump at that time. And we anticipate that that's going to happen this time. But the way we're going to try and take advantage of that is putting together some kinds, various kinds of specials that would be stimulating to our listeners and would hopefully increase the amount of folks who subscribe to the station. One is, since the election is coming up, we'll have a variety of election specials leading up to the election. We're going to continue our focus on the war. There will be a special entitled the Bush Report Card, where we'll take a real look at the 8 years of George Bush and bring in a lot of credible spokespersons who will be a part of that special. Another special on what rights are left. Just today, we lost, or yesterday, we lost some rights. And we are going to do some specials on that. Boiling point, something I've entitled Boiling Point. There are a lot of communities where there's some real hot button issues that we can begin to focus on. In Brooklyn, as you know, there are some things that have happened in Brooklyn that have made citywide news almost every night. 3 young men in Newark today, or 3 out of 4 were executed. One is in critical condition. There's a lot of interest in doing something about the violence in Newark. We need to do something on that.
How about the Bush impeachment?
Please allow Bernard to finish so that then we can have public comment. We're running late on public comment as it is. Please allow Bernard to finish.
We got a grant to get some remote equipment that would allow us to go out into the community. We haven't picked up that equipment yet, but we do have the check, and we're going to purchase that equipment in the near future and begin to go out into the community. It was difficult to do it before because we didn't have the proper equipment. Now with that grant, we'll have that equipment. And also, we're going to see if we can finally organize a group of folks on a regular basis to begin to call people who have lapsed subscriptions and address some of the issues that are in the subscription problem. That's pretty much it.
Okay, it's time for public comment. Can we,
It is after now.
all right. Monroe.
What is this? Say thank you. You didn't hardly reached it to me. You were waiting to, when you had permission to let
Please
me.
allow Monroe to have the floor.
All right, could I have a show of hands of how many people listened to how it was live yesterday? Or I should say Saturday.
Here's one.
1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. Did you hear at the end Reverend Lawrence Lucas try to assassinate me verbally? No. Where is he? Maybe the trustee. No. You hear that joyous Karen Lewis saying that Lawrence Lucas, who sort of quoted the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, that the government can't take our rights away. That's what it says, you know. But what is this thing, this freedom of speech thing that Monroe has going with WBAI? He has the right to all the time he wants on the air, and that he's equated with Don Imus, who is a monster. What the hell kind of a human being? What? He was just sitting here, Reverend Lawrence Lucas. I don't even know where he went. I hope he's all right. I don't think he left, but maybe, no, I don't think so. But just, I don't know, he was psychic that I wanted to nail him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Freedom of speech is beyond the Bill of Rights. It's right now I have freedom of speech. No one's telling me what to say except my inner soul.
And your time is up.
Yes, I was almost up. Well, how much more moments do I have?
Inner Bill of Rights is up.
Don't kid around, Mitch. I don't like you anymore because you have written on the good light board on listener forums any kind of statement about Bob Fass's assassinating of me on his last program. The monstrousness of the treatment that this 47-year listener member that WBAI has received from a guy like Bob Fass. I was with the WBAI before Bob Fass. I was there when the station was commercial. And I saw it go into Pacifica, and I was so happy about it, and now it's turning on me.
I want to remind board members, please, not to engage in the public they have before.
No, he has every right in my freedom of speech to I'm happy to have life, liberty.
Who's
next?
I hope, Solomon, you have this on your video. I'm so sick of it.
Right behind you, Marco. Right behind you.
Right here. Right here. Fine.
I recently purchased the Occupation 101 CD. I renewed my membership about a month ago. This past fundraising drive. And I just wanted to know whether the premiums are available to us during the year when the arm dries. Like I paid $125 for this Occupation 101. And there are other premiums that I am interested in, but was not able to purchase right away. So I'd like to know if they are available. For instance, Tim Wise's lectures I'd be interested in. And I think that's the way that we can, WBAI can keep this money coming in, because I definitely would purchase other premiums at a time when I'd be able to afford it.
There's no objection for non-convention, objection for answering that question.
Yeah, they will be available. Not all of them, but many of them will be available during the year, and especially the ones you just mentioned.
And how does one go about it?
They'll be up on the website.
The website.
Okay.
I'd like to say that the station should try to increase its appeal by offering 3 types of programs. We should invite viable third-party sponsored care to discuss their more meaningful political platforms. We should ask viable progressive candidates like Dennis Kucinich to appear to offer the listenership something meaningful. We should also make sure that we utilize greater airtime to ask members of leading unions to speak, because the union voice is really underrepresented at BAI. And finally, I hope to provide greater variety and diversity to to the health programs by getting maybe some representatives from the established medical community, just to provide variety and stimulation and dialogue with alternative medical programs presented.
Hi. My name is Steve Suffer. And this is not directly concerned WBAI, although WBAI is welcome to participate in it. This is an invitation or a suggestion for the anti-war movement. In all its various manifestations, some of which I'm sure are represented here, that since Americans elected George W. Bush president, and since, at least for the sake of argument, Americans re-elected him even after he invaded Iraq, I suggest that all Americans participate, all Americans join their Jewish brethren in observing the Day of Atonement in September to atone for what has happened in Iraq. And so far as I know, there's no organized effort to this effect, but I think that it would have an effect if it was undertaken by various branches of the anti-war movement. Thank you.
I'm going to reiterate what I say on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. The WBAI and Pacifica have three problems. One, it doesn't make a living. And you know, even with a married couple, when they don't make a living, there is a lot of problem. It's contentious, and there is factionalism. Those are our three main problems. If we could solve those problems, I think 90% of them would be solved. Now, I speak to a great deal of people, great number of people, all kinds of people, many ethnicities, and the criticisms, and I don't say I agree with them, but the main criticisms are they miss Gary Knoll, they miss Mike Bader, they miss Robert Knight. The tenants movement feels that when we are being attacked on all fronts by real estate banking, and so many people are being evicted, it isn't just enough to have Met Council. We should have the Harlem Tenants movement with Ellie Bailey. We should have Michael McKee, Tenants and Neighbors. We should have the SRO Coalition, Housing Conservation Corps, the West Side Neighborhood Alliance. We need them all on WBAI. We also can use some more 9/11 truth. This weekend in Madison, Wisconsin, Professor Jim Fixer, thank you. There was a Scholars for 9/11 Truth meeting where they presented data and scientific evidence to prove their theories on demolition. Now, I don't know if it was controlled demolition. As one expert said, it may not have been controlled demolition, but it was a demolition, and so on. The other day when I was visiting Amy Pittman, I stopped into a coffee shop, and there was a large group of African-American ladies, Lawrence Rice and her friends, and they were very upset. They told me that they're not giving any money to WBAI because they miss, now that's their opinion, they miss Utrice Lee, and they miss Marjorie Moore. And They were very, very upset in their opinions. I told them about the wonderful Pan-African broadcasting we have on WBAI. I couldn't change their minds. So we need a lot more listeners, and we need a lot more support, and we also need a code of conduct, which Manhattan Neighborhood Network has. We can get a copy of that code of conduct, how people should interact with each other and behave, and how they should express their opinions if they have some, and certainly not offend people and denigrate people and insult people. And certainly it should never it should never end up in fisticuffs. So these are some things we have to work on. Thank you very much.
Okay, here's that.
We have, been making videos of the meeting since October 2005, and we have short segments of the meetings. We have time meetings, and currently we're working on a series of 5 short films about the meetings. 3 of them are already posted on the web. And the 4th is a little late, we haven't read it, it's about public comment. So I hope more people will watch our site. The name of the website is active1.com, like PacificaVideo1.com. And if anyone wants to give me their email, my phone number, I'll keep you informed. I'll keep you informed of new releases. Thank you very much.
Okay, Marcus has had his hand up for quite some while. And Marcus has had his hand up for quite some while.
No comments.
Marcus, what?
A disgrace going on, putting on UFO tapes during the latest fund drive. I could get that on coast to coast on WABC. You know, after midnight, George, what's his name? Hilton Bellman. UFO tapes. What a joke. What else on top of that? Mike Levine says he wants to hit Iran. Yeah. So he's defended by the leadership of BAI, right? Hit Iran, hit Cuba, hit China. Send the Marines into Darfur. This is a totally pro-imperialist agenda being followed out systematically. This thing here, you look at it, page after page of anti-communist attack. Page after page. Spielberg on the cover. We're going to get him out of the Olympics, you know. Then you turn the page, you look here, what else we got here? Well, you don't want to look at it, right? This is the future of WBAI. This is it right here. You think I'm exaggerating? Listen, let's write new stuff on WBAI.
Okay.
Long live the People's Republic of China, goddammit!
Okay, Marquette.
Good evening.
What happened? Please, I am not engaged.
UFO aficionados.
Marcus has the floor.
And now the previous fund drive, they said that
Marcus
no, shut up. The previous fund drive, they said that the Rockefellers were behind the Russian Revolution. What an insult.
Marcus has the floor.
People are stupid. See right through your anti-communist stuff.
Marcus has the floor. Please allow him to speak.
You got Michael Ratner. You're covered for him. Don't you tell me what to do. Michael Ratner's committing all people in this city, and you say we can't talk about it on your show. You say that of what? You're bringing up Michael Ratner?
I'm asking you to allow Marcus to have his time.
Yeah? What? I'm out of here. I'm gonna stick around for this stuff. You can have the Epoch Times with Michael Ratner and what else? And the UFOs, yeah, you want to go to space aliens, right? Go up to Mars.
Okay, good evening, I'm Marquez Osson, a child steward with the Young Pet Staff Organizing Committee of WBAI. We have a statement against the proposed layoffs of staff at the WBAI. But I'm glad that I have some copies I can distribute to you. So I'll just summarize the key points. Anyway, when we say about layoffs, they have to be on the last resort, and to be not to be thought about, not until we have exhausted the other avenues. Think of everything as first, and then lay off immediately later, way later down the road. Okay, so in order to not to think about layoffs, we have to find other ways to bring more revenues into the AI. So what we are proposing is a few things on off-air fundraising initiative, email, phone calls, etc. Fundraising events such as with well-known artists and speakers, a major annual awards dinner, and that we should get the help of a professional fundraiser. And also doing tally time, and we are fundraising, because sometimes because of lack of volunteers, to answer the phone, we do miss some people who are calling to pledge. So if we could install a recording device, attach those messages, maybe for people that are willing to pledge when we have the staff to do that. And also explore partnerships with like-minded cultural and political organizations. All of that aim at raising the money that we need to keep the station afloat. And exploring the possibility of asking people who listen to the radio station on the internet to register, to provide us with their email so that we can contact them. And we would like also to see BAI put out a very attractive brochure to attract more people. And also, last but not least, we strongly urge the retention of the development director. As you heard, the interim the manager is proposing that line be taken out of the budget. You think that should not be so. We need the development director because applicants cannot depend solely on air fundraising. On-air fundraising need to be complemented by competent people doing serious developmental work to bring much needed fund and to make the station more visible throughout the metropolitan area and beyond. So that's it, and you have it here and by email so you can get it. If somebody will contact me, then I will send the text to you. But I think we'll have some copies and have some more in that day and have it up. So I thank you.
All right, absolutely. At this point, we really need to set the next meeting date, and I also want to announce the results of the Waivers Committee election. Sean Rhodes, Dia Bediaco, Serene Roberts, Kathy Davis, Roger Logaro, runner-ups are Raymond Forrest, Carolyn Bird, and Derek Zero. Yes. Sean Rhodes, Dia Bediaco, Serene Roberts, Kathy Davis, Roger Logaro, runner-ups, Raymond, runner-ups, Raymond Forrest, Carolyn Bird, and Derek Zero. And we need to set obviously the next meeting date for the local station board, but I want to ask the permission of this body for the waivers committee. Someone has already agreed that we could meet tomorrow at noon, that we meet tomorrow at noon, and commence our work immediately as we are already very far out of time. Is there any objection to the waivers committee meeting tomorrow at noon? Is there any objection to the waivers committee meeting? Some of the waivers committee members have already agreed that we can meet tomorrow at noon in order to get going here because we're very late. And is there any objection to the waivers committee meeting tomorrow at noon? Okay, great. Leah, do you have some place for us for that? We need to meet again this week. Yeah. And you also want to do another program committee?
When I was looking for the space, I don't think we have today available. What they had available was August 21st, and the acoustics there are better. We're supposed to be downstairs today, but we got bumped upstairs. It's what happens when we get the places for free. But I don't think the committee is on August 21st, if you want that day, in the art gallery.
It's made yourself what day of the weekend?
Tuesday. Right? Yes.
What is the day?
It's a Tuesday. Okay.
August 21st,
Why don't we just
Adam Clayton Powell State Office mail day.
Why don't we just quickly vote on whether we can do that? Yes.
Is this supposed to be instead of a September meeting?
No. No, we need to meet again. I would think. All right. Can we, yes, and Neil, what else?
The permanent committee voted August 13th. I can't make that day because Jamie and I are on that committee. I'm the chair and Jamie's the secretary. So I can't meet on August 13th. So I'd like to vote on another date for the programming committee. And August is pretty booked. So I'm going to go to September 10th if I may.
Is there any objection to the programming committee meeting September 10th?
Can we just look and check?
Yes. Please speak up and use the microphone.
What day is September 10th?
It's Monday, September 10th.
Monday, September 10th, the programming committee. Is there any objection to the next local station board meeting being on August 22nd, Tuesday, August 21st? All right. You have space? Let's go.
What time?
At 7 p.m. And that will be a new meeting, yes.
21st?
I would move to amend that to say that if you have no quorum by 8 p.m., that we cancel the meeting.
All right, there's an amendment to setting the meeting time for the next meeting, that if we don't have a quorum by 8, the meeting be adjourned. All right, can we just move to a vote on that? All those in favor of that amendment, that the meeting will be adjourned until the quorum by 8, please raise your hand. 1, 2, all opposed. 1.
Wait.
Okay.
We had a meeting in Newark, and we did not have a quorum for
I asked all in favor and I asked all opposed. All right, the vote is on the amendment by our Hallmark. The vote is taken. He's announced the result. Well, I may not have heard. All right, it is an amendment to the motion setting the date of the next meeting, date and time, which is that if there is no quorum by 8 p.m., the meeting will be automatically adjourned. Is that correct?
But did we just have?
Yes.
For no matter
Some
what.
people said that they did not hear the announcement.
That's it, that's.
We've had issues here all night long about what people didn't hear. All those in favor?
Point of order, we have to vote.
We have been accommodating people that have been inability to hear all of
Madam
that.
Chair, I would like to challenge the vote.
All right. All those in favor, all right. The chair's rule that we can go against, we go back up, we can hear, they're not able to hear. All those in favor? We're going to.
The motion on the floor, there's a point of order.
Why are you wasting it?
Point of order.
Yes. You want to spend, how much time do you wish to spend?
How much time do you want to spend in screwing around here? This is what you're doing. I mean, come on. If you're going to make a ruling that gets appealed, you have to let people argue.
All right, people did not hear. All those in favor of our Hallmark's amendment, please raise your hand.
Madam Chair, I challenge
All right,
the
all those in favor of, I'm not going to even argue this. All those in favor of upholding the chair's
Oh, here we
Well,
go
you have to
again.
let them debate. That's my point.
Here we go again. End the meeting in a riot.
To say, I think all you have to say, no.
Rumble time. Time for the rumble.
Does everybody here wish to debate this now? What time is it? Is it, all right.
Madam Chair, it was my challenge, I would like to speak.
All right. You know what? I did it now.
I did not hear.
I did not announce the result. And people objected. Okay, so go ahead and make your argument.
Madam Chair, this is a slippery slope. If every time there's a vote that someone doesn't like, he or she claims that he hear and have to vote again, we would be bogged down and also leaves things open for extreme abuse, as I think is taking place here.
Okay, I wanted to say that was well taken, but I can still let there, but from the looks I got down there, I think the people genuinely did not hear this. And we have accommodated repeatedly people who said that they could hear all night long. Except that all those people sat over here. We have yet to accommodate a single person here. So
Sort of personal privilege.
Maybe if you turn the speaker around, then it would be reversed.
The speaker is personal privilege. Will the chair please not make references to members in that manner? It's not.
well, I'm just saying that we have accommodated all night long, and we accommodated the.
Yeah, look how you've got an A.
Nobody objected.
The speaker's pointing that way in the back.
The PA system can't hear you.
If you all shout, nobody will hear you. But nobody objected to any previous accommodations to people who have been here. All those in favor of upholding the chair's ruling that it is perfectly legitimate to review this vote, or not review the vote actually, it wasn't completed, but to repeat once again the issue to be voted upon, and have the vote, please raise your hand. All those in favor of upholding the chair's ruling that it is in order to repeat the issue to be voted upon, and take the vote again, raise your hand, please. 1,
It's very easy.
All right, can you hear? All right, would you like to come closer? Okay, all those opposed to the chair's ruling that it is in order to repeat the item on which we are voting, namely R. Paul Martin's amendment to setting the next date so that the meeting would automatically adjourn if there wasn't a quorum by me. All those opposed to the chair's ruling that it is proper to announce what the content of that was again and vote on it. Please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we're now going to vote. We're now going to one. All right, all hands up. I thought I got his hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. There you go. All right, all those in favor of our, all right, please close, please, all those in favor of our Paul Martin's amendment, that if the meeting on August 21st, which will be convened at 7 p.m., does not have a quorum at 8 p.m., it will automatically be adjourned. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so that does not carry. Now we go on to the vote to get the argument. Please raise your hand and we can call upon. I see one hand up. Yes, ma'am.
We didn't vote to have, in favor of having a meeting on August 21st.
No, that's next.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor of meeting on August 21st at 7 p.m., please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that carries. So we will meet next then. Now, where are we? Budget. Yes, I'm sorry, Ife? Yes, Ife.
I would like to say for
Is there any objection to a mock meeting of the 8th, that's in 2 days?
Yes.
Is there any objection to a meeting, is there any objection to a meeting of the Membership Outreach and Fundraising Committee on the 8th of August? Without objection, thank you, Ben. Yes, Fareed. Mike?
Yeah, I forgot I didn't get up, right? We had a budget that was presented this evening with a deficit. We had some recommendations from the IGM as to adjustments to that budget, and I would like to get a formal support of lack of support for the recommendations that were put forth this evening by the IGM. Okay? Yes.
Do we have to vote on the budget tonight also?
Well, this is the problem that we have. The budget has to be to the national finance to line by August 13th. So we are in a bit of a pickle. We don't get a draft to
Can you list recommendations one by one?
Yeah, I'll go with recommendations.
Yeah, there are many questions that I have, which we didn't have time to.
Yes, but excuse me. Yeah, I'm sorry, I just, we need to get.
We might not have time. When will we have time to get answers to these questions?
The question is, there are a lot of questions that you raise a good point. The question is, do we feel that the budget is equal and we can work with it at this point? Because the budget can be revised by the LSB at a future point in time. So we need to get something that we can start the process with. There are questions that have to be cleared up. If we don't get something to them now, we could have budget imposed upon us. So what I'm suggesting is that we get this out, we can get into the details and revise the budget accordingly a little bit later into early part of the fiscal year.
I understand the issue, but I would respect to object to that.
Okay.
Until we get some of these questions answered, because they are good questions.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then we need to consider revising the scheduled meeting of the LSB. Then we need to change that. We need to make that meeting an earlier date.
All right, are we fixing time? I'm sorry, I'm sharing the meeting. How are we fixing your time? out of the room by 10 o'clock, and it is now what? Yes, Bob?
I want to propose that we vote to tentatively approve the budget, pending hearing amendments. But that we also set a meeting, I know the finance committee was trying to offer 2 different meeting dates, that we set that date so that everyone can come and bring whatever questions they have. We really push for answers, so that by coming meeting on the 21st, we can, go back over this, decide what needs to be, examined again. And my own personal one, I put on the list is the request for pay cuts would be pending hearings and feedback from the union.
Okay, so is that a motion?
What date, and we discussed a couple, we discussed Thursday of this week coming back. I don't know if that's going to give the business manager sufficient time to get answers, realistically. I mean, we have access over the month, so I don't think we're going to get answers by Thursday. So I don't know, we could do something next week and still have an appropriate notice. So I mean, we need to hash this out.
Okay.
Well, there's 2 issues here. First thing, let's see if we have a consensus on the adjustments and we'll do the preliminary budget, and then we can talk about the meeting. How about that? So the first issue I think we can get out of the way quickly is the position of the development director with the IGM recommended be taken out of the budget. Is there a motion? How about this? Should I propose a motion in one and a half, or
I have it salary.
65,000?
Okay. Yes, Andrew?
Can we reschedule the August 21st meeting to an earlier date and devote it to the finance, to the budget, and have all these questions answered and address whatever's remaining in terms of the list that you're going to propose to us tonight? Instead of meeting on the 21st, can we have a finance LSB meeting earlier than the 13th?
I certainly can't meet earlier than the 21st if you have a space. I think that what Bob proposed was reasonable, that everybody that wants to work on this get the chance to. In other words, if we pass, but I'm just saying, all right, I don't know if the argument has a point.
The LSB has to pass it as
Okay, yes, the LSB has to pass it as forward. Bob, would you please explain the motion again and how it will work, because we have about 5 more minutes in this space.
Okay, well, we can do, but I think we can do, you correct me if I'm wrong. We can send out a draft budget with the understanding that a subsequent draft, it will be submitted after our meeting on the 21st. This way, Lonnie can begin the process of consolidating the various stations of budget. We come up on the 21st, we pass the budget, we give it to him, and, we explain to the National Finance Committee that the draft that they received based on that first draft has changed in the following ways. And I think that they will be quick enough that they could handle whatever adjustments we gave them at that particular moment.
And just to complete the information, the alternative is that the budget gets imposed upon us from upstairs.
Yeah, but if we don't give them something to work with, then they will be required to put together federal. So we can pass something with the proviso that it is subject to revision at our August 21st LSB.
We could also.
Yes,
we could also request that the date be extended by which we have to submit the budget, so that we could have for 2 weeks, so that we could have a more full discussion, because Serene correctly pointed out, there are a lot of outstanding issues. Marion Bornstein has raised a very important issue at the Finance Committee that wasn't raised here, about changing the percentage that we pay to the national, and that would be reflected throughout the budget if that goes through. So we need to really talk about that among ourselves as well as with national before we can vote on the budget, in my opinion.
I think we are well out of time. Yes.
There really hasn't been voiced what the motion is that's about to be.
Okay, let me see if I can, if you click on voice,
All right, I move that we tentatively approve the budget as presented with the amendments that Bruce is going to do. Okay, provisionally. That we provisionally approve the budget with the amendments minus the removal of the development director, which I do not support. other proposals, and with the proviso that the pay cuts be discussed first with the unions, and that we then revisit this budget at our next meeting on all. And that the finance committee, the treasurer be authorized to send it to the finance committee before the 21st. If you can't figure it out.
That's a mouthful. It has moved and seconded.
Can we hear this again, so we're all together?
Okay, once more.
Yes, speak slowly.
All right. I move that the LSB provisionally approve the draft budget.
Approve the draft budget.
With the amendments suggested by the IGM.
Should I list those amendments?
Sure, go ahead, and then I'll finish after you list.
Those amendments are, defer the 4% increase for the union effective October 1st.
Say that again?
Defer the 4% increase scheduled to take place October 1st.
We've got to debate this. Provisional saying nobody gets a salary increase?
That's what Congress just.
Hold on.
5%.
The problem here is that we have to be out of this space, number one. Number two, the problem is that we have a choice here between submitting a provisional budget that we then debate both in the finance committee and at our next meeting, or we have a budget imposed upon us by the central office. So
Or
that's,
the third is that we get an extension for 2 weeks.
but that's this. If we have any days, we got days and days, if we have any days.
Okay. A 5% across the board salary reduction for all staff members, excluding those who haven't had a raise in 2 or more years.
Who are they?
How many are there?
Reduce payback to the national office to $50,000 for next year's budget. I mean, we're looking for.
There's something else that's going to be reduced.
No, we're not doing that before. Oh, improve, increase listener support by improving fulfillment. And that part was $50,000 also.
Okay.
Okay, so wait, so.
He had one more, right? No, that's it. No, that was it.
So then,
We had one more, but Bob said it's excluding the elimination of the development.
But you had already proposed that we include all of our Scott Adams, which includes striking the development.
Okay, that's it.
no,
Now,
I
he knows Bob's
specifically,
motion
my motion, and I
specific.
specifically said I do not.
Right, I know that Bob said that if I go over Robert Scott Adams.
Right, and I'm excluding that, so.
Didn't he say something
I'll just
about
add, the other proviso is that the pay cuts, the proposed pay cuts and freeze would be subject to, that our approval is contingent on hearing a response from the unions to that proposal. So in other words, you might choose to reconsider that based on what happens.
Point of information, Madam Chair. Point of information, did Robert Scott Adams also say something about mailing premiums?
Yes, he did. No, he said, yes, he talked about monitoring postage. So that would be the point of information.
That wasn't
Yes,
quantified.
quickly.
Oh, okay.
Point of information, the people who have not had pay cuts in 2 years, does that include or exclude people who got bonuses, Christmas, are those bonuses?
Bonuses are not paid. Okay. I think bonuses are people who have got bonuses but not paid increases would get 4.5%. I don't think that's correct. No, they would not get a cut. Okay. Well, they're not going to get that's correct. Yes, Paul.
Yeah, I think we should, this is the wrong way to do it. I think we should tell Pacifica we need a little more time. They didn't get us information in a timely manner, and now we're being bums rushed into cobbling together a year's budget in no time at all. This budget process this year has been the worst ever. We have not gotten sufficient information in a timely way from Pacifica. And if we're going to do this,
The problem is locally. That's where the information we haven't gotten.
don't blame Pacifica.
I blame Pacifica. Hey, let's talk about we're getting this from the same CFO who said he would make $200,000 from the mail drops, and his member reported tonight we made 25 grand. That's a bigger thing than anything, I think. However, I want to amend. I propose an amendment, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, please call everyone to order. I move to amend it by taking the part about pay cuts, except for those who've had no raises for 2 years. Is that it? And include the words exclusive of management. The intent being that management will get a 5% pay cut, period, no matter who got a raise or whatever, when. So that's my amendment, to make it, to include the words exclusive of management.
Okay, so let's vote on this amendment right now.
Why don't you ask about the second?
Actually, what time is it? All right, our time for this actually is long since it's exhausted, so we'll bring everything to a vote. All right, so the first amendment is that the part about pay cuts that makes an exception for those who have had no raises in the last 2 years be stricken. All those in favor?
No. I want to go on record that I am dead set against rushing to a pay cut.
Exactly what you said. At this point, you are out. This is out of order. Our full mark.
We have to have a discussion about cutting people's pay, which is their lives, which is their rent, which is their food. And you're saying that that's what we should be doing and rushing to it.
This is out of order.
No, it's out of order. It's deciding to cut people's pay without any real discussion, without finding out who the people are, what their needs are, how many people there are, what is the actual facts and the figures. I propose to cutting people's pay cuts, and these leftists who are talking about cutting people's pay really want to think about what it means to be on the left.
My motion was to simply add the part about 5% pay cuts except for those who've had no raise in 2 years, I think it is. Just put in the words, exclusive of management.
Oh, exclusive of management, I'm very sorry.
Which just means management's going to be with 5% pay cut.
I did disagree.
Which just means, okay, so
what that means is All right, our poll marks amendment is as follows. He wishes to add to the part about 5% pay cuts except for those who have not had a raise. No, hang on, let me finish. It was 5% pay cuts except for all those who have not had a raise in 2 years, exclusive of management. Adding the words exclusive of management. Except for those who have not had a raise in 2 years, exclusive of management.
Yes, but with the intention that means management is a
Right,
right.
right, exactly. All those in favor?
What information? What information?
All those in favor?
Yes. Is it possible that somebody does that? Oh, I thought I was just asking you to look at the forward for that.
Okay, I think, I'm sorry I created confusion with this whole thing about the pay cuts and the freeze. I think what people are trying to say and make more than this is just not even put in this mix until we heard the meeting. So I would just withdraw it and just say that we.
But the issue is, without the pay cuts, we're not going to be sending up a budget, a draft. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. At least a half our requirement.
Right. So what I'm saying is that what we should put in is a footnote saying management has proposed pay cuts and freezes, which we are willing to consider after the year. And then it's out there, but that would be whatever it was, 100,000 revenue, if it goes forward, but we're not ready for the position yet.
All right, no, I thought that was clear in your original motion. So basically, it's getting very late, because we're getting very tired. It's getting harder and harder to follow. All right, so our call basically, let's just go up or down on his amendment, which is to exclude management from the exception to those who have not had a raise in the last 2 years. All those in favor of our call amendment, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Our Paul's amendment, which has been repeated repeatedly, is that there will be 5% pay cuts for all those, except those who have not had a raise within the last 2 years, excluding management.
Meaning excluding management.
Meaning that the management will be subject to the 5% cut. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those in favor, just please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, that does not carry. I will ask Bob's motion, which was provisionally pass the budget as drafted with the amendment proposed by the interim general manager, except for A and B. A being that the budget director, development director would remain in the budget, and B being that the 5% staff cut would be subject to and freeze be further revisited after the meeting. Okay, so that's it. So this is provisional. All those in favor?
Can you, I'm sorry, I missed that. Can you?
It's the same as before, basically. We really have to bring this to a vote and go.
So the amendment is that there are any other changes as decided by the OSB.
Point of order, yes, point of order. We were starting to order.
On the agenda, it said we leave at 9:45, so if you really want to be sticklers, this is all the legal. If you really want to take a meeting.
Actually, that agenda is not enforced per law.
So we're not going to defer.
Please come to order and let us do some business tonight. All right. I think it is, I believe that it should be clear from the reading that we're not done with this. So this will be revisited, there may be further changes. This is provisional. All those in favor?
I would like Congress to reflect that. There may be that not.
Where do you exactly do you want to insert that?
At the end of the list of items that
Yes.
we consider, just add a clause saying and other items to be decided by the OSB.
Hence the meaning of the word provisional.
Hence the meaning of the word provisional. Well, but, okay, so.
All right, but you're saying,
All right, all those in favor of Bob's motion, please raise your hand.
Wait a minute, what about her? She just made
There's
an
no
amendment.
second. Oh, you did second, I'm sorry. All right, all those in favor of Carolyn's amendment, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Could you repeat what they're voting on so that people know why they're opposing it?
Good one. 8, 9. 9 opposed. How many were in favor?
Who cares?
All right, so that does not carry. All those in favor of Bob's motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that carries.
Oh, what about this?
All right, and is that? No, and then there's another motion to authorize the chair of the finance committee to set the next finance committee meeting prior to August 21st. Is there any question?
Say that again, please. There's just too much confusion.
Yes, there are too many people talking.
That is not only it.
Although, is there any objection to the treasurer calling a finance committee meeting prior to August 21st? Is there any objection? Will be at that meeting that many things will be hashed out.
Question.
Yes.
At the finance committee, we had set like parameters because, when we would have this sort of thing happen. Is this just now wide open? Because there's a danger if it's wide open, we're choosing a date, but we would have a quorum and everything.
Rudy, yes, Rudy.
I think it's better to suggest that the chair of the committee be able to poll membership after ascertaining which dates are good for the IGL and business manager. You can give information and explanation from that.
Okay, is there any objection to that?
Didn't hear.
Okay, what she said was that the treasurer be allowed to call the meeting, poll members to find out what meeting, what date is best for poll the IGN and the business manager, and then set a meeting based on their availability to answer these questions before August 22nd. Is there any objection to that? 21st, I'm sorry, before August 21st. Is there any objection to that? Hearing none?
You have to pass it.
Point of information.
All right, that's it, there's no objection.
I wanted to say something.
All right, then we'll bring it to the vote because we don't have
Discussing this budget, which the chair, I believe, should have made a much better process when we would have the discussion.
I'm here.
It's a terrible process of passing a year's budget, and I object to the way in which the chair has conducted this meeting.
This is out of order. We have not reached the vote. There is objection. All those in favor of allowing, all those in favor of allowing the treasurer to set a meeting after having polled the business director and the IGM for their availability prior to August 1st, 21st, please raise your hand.
Madam Chair,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Madam Chair, can we say that the August 21st meeting will be voted to these questions?
No. All those opposed to the treasurer, we're not opposition, as before. There was a motion to adjourn.
Point of information, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I have a point of information. Madam Chair, I have a point of information I've been trying to make for several minutes now.
Sorry.
The long motion that was.
So, 2 points. One is, I'd like the board to send its support to Margaret W. and her family on the death of her brother. And,
She asked that the board send its condolences to Margaret Dominique and her family on the death of Margaret's brother, Henry. And
as a second point, that board members ask those willing to make a contribution. We were hosted in July by community organizations who provided us with rain space, food drains, and so on and so forth. We did not pass that out at the time, but I would ask that those willing to make a contribution.
Point of order. Okay, so is that what the order has been? Yes.
This is the regular order of business concern introduction on the listserv, and we all have a certain way to respond.
I'm going to rule it.
I would say this is out of order, and I would like you to move the agenda.
I understand that there's somebody who has a point of information to make. The other point that was made is that we were very graciously hosted in Newark, and that the hat was not passed, and provided us with drinks, and provided us with space, so that all those who are willing to contribute something, we will pass the hat tonight. And yes, there was a point of information.
Madam Chair, I had a point of information about the long motion moved by Bob Lederer, and it apparently changed from the time when I wrote it down to the time when we actually voted on it.
Which motion was that?
The LSP provisionally approves the draft budget with the amendments suggested by the IGM, except for the removal of the development director. And now do we say we don't approve of the 4% increase and the 5%, I mean the 4% freeze, the deferral of the 4% freeze, and do we say that we do not approve of the 5% across the board salary reduction?
Perhaps you missed when I later.
Yes, I did. That's why I'm asking this question. It was never answered before we voted on it.
Okay, well, I did.
Well, just tell me what you said.
What I said was I was pulling out the motion, any even provisional support for freeze for the cuts, rather than that we specifically say that we would wait to hear feedback from the unions and then we'll revisit it on the
So we say, so I understand that we do not support the, at this point, we do not support the deferral of 4% increase, and we do not support the 5% across the board cuts.
That's not what I said. I said we're not taking a position on it. It was pulled out of the budget, so we're not saying.
Okay, but if we don't take a position on it, it means we do not expressly support it. Can I say that? Okay, thanks.
I vote to adjourn.
So what is, all right, well, why don't we take, why don't we do all of the list of comments everybody wants to do now, and then we're going to have to quickly take care of housekeeping. So we have 1, 2, 3 people.
Okay, first of all, a few of the things I was going to say, I'm not going to bother saying. But one thing I have to say is, the acoustics in this room is lousy. The sound system is lousy. People don't speak what I consider American media English. Half of them I can't understand even when I'm facing them right up front. I can't even read their lips. Something's got to be done about this room. You can't keep having this meeting here. And I'm not the only one that suffers from lack of hearing. And I wish something would be done. If I had realized, first of all, I haven't been around here for a long time. And if I had realized the meeting was going to be here tonight, I wouldn't have wasted my time. I don't come to this particular room. I don't come to the big great hall at the Cooper Union. The acoustics there is awful. I don't go to Riverside Church anymore. In either one of their rooms, it's disgusting. I may be a problem, but then again, so is the space. And if this is going to continue here, this is it, guys. So long. I'm sure it was a lot of people also.
All right, the next person is Marquez.
Anybody get a copy of the latest from the newspaper of the Falun Gong? This particular edition of the Epoch Times, on the front page, we have on page 1, if you open it up, what you see here. They're not limiting their agenda to China. Oh no. No. There's a whole world for the Falun Gong to spread its anti-communism. So they target Cuba. They target Cuba. And of course, there are people here who prefer to, look the other way and, so what? This ain't no big deal. Free speech, right?